Hello, my Ace Spoon Coons. What is up? Today is October 7th. It's the big day. It's the big day. It's the anniversary of the major terrorist attack in Israel. But anyway, I won't hold you with bad news. We're going to start with some good news. How about that? Check this out.
Mom, what's one good thing about a pedophile?
It's no good things.
They drive slow in school zones. Mom, what's the difference between a gay man and a refrigerator?
Oh my God, Jalen, I told you. What's the difference?
A refrigerator doesn't fart when you pull your meat out.
No, come on, man.
Mom,
My God, what?
what do you call a white girl with a yeast infection?
This is nasty. What is it?
A cracker with cheese. What's the best way to flatten a curve?
I don't know.
Abortion.
Are you crazy?
Why do schools only buy black computers?
That's so not true, but why?
Because they run faster.
Oh, that did.
What does Michael Jackson and the Xbox have in common?
I don't know, Jalen.
Little boys turn them on.
Jalen, oh my God, that man is dead.
Why can't Jesus eat M&Ms?
We're not going to talk about Jesus.
Why can't Jesus eat M&Ms?
Why not?
Because they keep falling through his hands.
I'll smack you. Don't play with Jesus.
Mom, what are kidnappers' favorite shoe?
I don't know.
White Vans.
You a dummy.
Mom, why can't Captain Hook never have a good time?
Jeez. Why?
Because every time he fingers a girl, she's on her period.
Jalen! Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell?
Why isn't there a pregnant Barbie doll?
Boy, I don't damn know.
Because Ken came in a different box.
Are you an asshole?
¿Fue la primera vez que grababan juntos?
Sí, la primera vez.
All right, another news. Check out Billy Carson doing his rounds again. He is saying some real shit right here, y'all. Come on now.
The language that's being played on the television means nothing. The language being played on the radio and the speakers means nothing. It's the conscious intent behind the words that have power and authority over your body and consciousness. So if your mother is listening to CNN and Fox News and all these toxic channels that are putting out the most fear-based content, it's going to imbue every cell in your body. It's going to make your cells celebrate on the frequency that it's emanating. Everything that's going on around you, the music being played, if it's depending on what kind of music it is, if it's gentle, soft, healing music, well, that's phenomenal. If it's 432 hertz music and 528 hertz music, even better. But if it's the favorite rap artist of the day, the toxic ones from mainstream, not so good. 440 hertz, toxic lyrics. It's destroying your body and programming your mind, and you're not even a toddler yet. If that's what the mother's listening to. If that's what the father's listening to, and you happen to be within earshot of what they're playing, all those curse words and all those anger words and all those statements of drug use and unaliving people and racial slurs, it's programming you moment by moment, turning you into something that you weren't meant to be, because the avatar body is going to run the programming code that it's given. especially between the ages of 1 to 7. So if you see what's happened between the ages of 1 to 7, the music, the news, the TV series or TV shows, right? If your mother is watching Housewives of Atlanta and things like that, toxic. Toxic. I'm sorry, somebody's got to say it. It's toxic. It's toxic trash, garbage. No child should be within the vicinity of hearing any of that garbage. It's the Matrix code. It's being bathed over you, keeping you stuck, developing a mindset of scarcity, prejudice, hatred, competition, depression, desire, lust, at a young age. A kid shouldn't even have those types of thoughts. But that's what we're being programmed with. Programmed in the Matrix. After the age of 7, we're pretty much who we're going to be. Once you get into grade school, the first thing they do is steal everything from you. Your imagination, your ability to daydream, your ability to ask questions, your ability and your desires to lean towards things that you feel passionate about. They tell you to shut up, sit down, speak when you're spoken to, raise your hand first. Now, sometimes you raise your hand, they don't even come to you to ask you the question, let you ask the question. So since you can't ask the question, now you're frustrated. Stand in line, walk in a straight line, stop fidgeting, stop moving, put that down, put this down. They turn you into a robot. You're a biological robot by the time you get done with grade school. Now you're growing up and you're saying, I don't know why I'm depressed. I don't know why I'm anxious. I don't know why I'm frustrated. I don't know why I'm not living the life of my dreams. I don't even know who I am. I don't know what my passions are. Of course you don't know what your passions are. It's been stolen and ripped away from you at such a young age, you never had a chance to discover what it would even be. Now you're a grown person trying to figure out what you're passionate about and what your destiny is and who you are. It's not your fault. This is what they've done to program you within this matrix. You're literally running on programming code. You're questioning it and asking why, but you haven't really realized the reason why. They set you up at the moment of conception until the point you are at today. But now you have awareness. Now you heard my voice. Now you know why. Why you have a scarcity mindset, a lack of abundance mindset, why you have a competition mindset. They designed us and programmed us to be in consistent competition with each other instead of collaboration. Because if we collaborate, the moment we collaborate on a massive scale, it's over for them. Game over. Game over. There's nowhere they can run. There will be nowhere they can hide. We would take back control of this planet. The language that's being played on the television means...
Okay, y'all. Story time. Bible story time. Let's go.
Christians, it's Bible study time. Did you know nothing in your Bible is original? Every story, every law, every hymn, all of it is copied from older civilizations. Let's go over them, and you can fact check me. The flood story of Noah. That's the Epic of Gilgamesh. Utnapishtim builds an ark, loads animals, sends out a dove and raven. Genesis just retells it. The creation story in Genesis, straight out of the Babylonian Enuma Elish, where the universe is split from watery chaos. Same imagery, older source, Moses in the basket. That's Sargon of Akkad's birth legend. Set in a reed basket, sealed with pitch, pulled from the river, raised by another family. Exodus just remixes it. The laws of Moses, they're near identical to the Code of Hammurabi. Eye for an eye, rules about oxen, theft, marriage. Hammurabi carved those laws centuries before Israel even existed. Proverbs 22 to 24, copied word for word from the Egyptian instruction of Amenemopi. Don't believe me? Read them side by side. Psalm 104, it mirrors the Egyptian hymn to Aten, the same sun imagery, the same praise language. The word in John 1, that's not new either. It comes from Greek philosophy and Jewish writer Philo's concept of the Logos. John didn't invent it, he just baptized it. Even the household codes, wives obey your husbands, slaves obey your masters in Ephesians and Colossians, are lifted from Roman social manuals, not heaven. And here's the kicker, the Bible itself admits its copying. Joshua 10:13 quotes the book of Jeshar. Numbers 21:14 mentions the book of the wars of the Lord. Proverbs 25:1 literally says, Hezekiah's men copied Solomon's sayings. Luke 1:1 admits, many have undertaken to draw up accounts, meaning the Gospels aren't eyewitness, they're compilations. So let's be real. Nothing in your Bible is original. It's a remix of Mesopotamian epics, Egyptian wisdom, Babylonian law codes, Greek philosophy, and Roman social control, all stitched together to serve empire. Your homework? Fact-check me. Read the verses yourself. Search the sources. Ask why a so-called word of God needs to borrow from everybody else. If it's divine, why is it plagiarized? Christians, it's Bible study time.
Sew it up. Now let's get on some Mossad stuff. Zionism, the true terrorists of this universe.
Who did
And the
you
U.S.
not
is
at
a
all
culprit.
trust, even though you have to work with them?
The Israelis.
Who did you not at all trust, even though you have to work with them?
The Israelis.
You didn't trust them.
Not as far as I could throw them.
You, or was that a cultural thing?
It was cultural. We don't allow the Israelis into CIA headquarters because they would always come with gifts, and the gifts had always listening devices packed inside them. And you know, somebody brings you a gift, you x-ray it. It's the normal process. And we're like, you guys can't keep coming back here every single time trying to bug our conference rooms. So no more. So,
and was it easy to x-ray and see that they had bugs in them?
Yeah.
What percentage of the time did gifts have bugs in them?
100%.
Be quiet.
No, seriously.
Are you kidding me?
Absolutely not. I wish I was.
100% of the time they brought gifts that had bugs in them.
Yeah. And we're like, okay, no more. You can't come on campus anymore.
Will you guys joke about it with them? You're like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What is this?
We
So
would
was
say,
it like a
"Come on,
joke?
Come on, you guys. No, they were serious. They were hoping one would slip through.
Who did
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
This is Mossad's old office. Its motto from Proverbs 24:6 says in so many words, wage war through deception and trickery.
We create a pretend world.
When they tell you who they are and show you, believe them. Simple as that. Terrorist organization.
How did
I hope none of you have beepers.
Ha ha ha.
how did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question. The whole country is the IDF. The whole country is. Yeah. And you're trying to tell me that they're going to concerts and kibbutzes and schools, and by reports, 6 hours. Let's say it's 3 hours.
That's suspect.
Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. And sadly, that won't happen.
Everybody, I'll tell you what. All 5 of them. We're taking this country back, everybody, I'll tell you what.
Right? I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
I hope none of you have beepers.
The Israelis are not like anybody else. They killed a guy in a hotel room in Dubai, and then after they killed him, they were somehow able to lock the door from the inside of the hotel room.
There was like 26 people that the Dubai CCTV footage picked up.
Right.
Weren't the cameras Israeli made?
I got a tour of the whole facility, and the cameras were German.
What facility?
There's an underground...
Let's move into the Mossad a little bit. You've talked about in interviews that the Israelis are ranked critical threat for counterintelligence, a little bit about our relationship with them, but something that I'm really interested in is the Mossad operationally, because I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you'd be hard-pressed to argue with the fact that they are really, really good.
Best in the world.
So, yeah, I guess broad question, like what has been your experience while at the agency, talking to other case officers, working with the Israelis? What stands out?
My experience is universally negative. Universally negative. I've never had a positive encounter with Mossad. I have never met a CIA officer who has had a positive encounter with Mossad. Because the Mossad doesn't give two shits what you think or what you are trying to focus on in your job. They care only about Israel. And if that means shoving their fists up your ass or trying to recruit you or telling you to go fuck yourself while they try to recruit, the guy sitting next to you or the guy in the defense contractor's office, they don't care what you think of them. Because for them, it's an issue of survival. They have nowhere to go if they don't survive. The thing is, the Israelis, this was covered in the Washington Post just a couple days after the 12-day war started. And what the Israelis did is that they have a lot of Farsi-speaking Jews in Israel. These are Iranians who are Jewish and who emigrated to Israel. And a lot of them work for Mossad and Shin Bet. And what the Israelis did was they got the cell phone numbers of literally every Iranian nuclear scientist. And they had these these Iranian Jews call on their cell phones, call the scientists and say, listen, you're going to die tomorrow, right? We're going to kill you tomorrow. You have no hope. You're going to die. Just accept it. Or you can defect to us right now. And they're like, fuck you. And they hang up the phone. Then they call the wives and say, listen, we're going to kill your husband tomorrow. So tell him this is his only chance. He's going to die tomorrow. And what they ended up doing is just taking out the entire block of apartment buildings. They killed 14 nuclear scientists. That devastates the entire program. And the Israelis are not like anybody else. They killed a guy in a hotel room in Dubai, and
let's not forget this classic, right in your face. Bro, I am not suicidal. It is 19. We are recording 19 minutes and 54 seconds. I am not suicidal. Anything happens, it was Mossad. Holy Spirit, welcome. Lord, send your angels. Lord, protect us. Lead us into victory at all times from now until the end, Lord. Amen.
To fall. And remember, he's an Israeli agent. Are you to fall? And remember, he's an Israeli agent. To fall, to fall, to fall, to fall, to fall.
Damn,
And
son. What's wrong? Here we go.
To fall. And remember, he's an to fall. And remember, he's an Israeli agent. Are you saying Israel will murder politicians in the West or get rid of them politically through bribery or whatever else? What do you mean the politicians in the West will fall if they don't agree to back Israel's war against Iran?
Yeah, we will not vote for them anymore.
You can't vote.
Oh, no, well, you don't vote for them now. You're not in our country. What do you mean the politicians will fall?
Gem.
To fall.
Arms doing what it takes to ensure the survival of every Israeli citizen around the world. Most other countries will stop at some point, but Mossad doesn't do that. We do not kill to save a citizen, but Mossad will. No, they spare no expense because it's a demonstration to their own people. Again, going back to the whole idea of influence. Every intelligence operation that sees the light of day has two purposes. The first purpose is the intelligence operation. But if it was just the intelligence operation, it would stay secret forever. The second purpose of every successful intelligence operation, when they become public, is to send a signal to the world. If you work against us, we will do this to you. If you work for us, we will take care of you in this way.
And that's what you just heard in the last video. If you work against us, we will make sure you all fall.
Boom, gone. 3 days later, they take out Israel takes out Iran's top emergency military commander. Boom, gone. 3 days later, they take out his replacement too. Well, Iran starts freaking out over all this and says, all right, well, this time we're going to keep the next guy's name a secret so that you can't take him out as well. But Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, was like, oh, really? You think that we're not going to figure it out or already don't know? Well, Mossad goes on X and turns this whole thing into a game and says, guess who the new commander is? We already know, but let's see if you can figure it out. Well, thousands of people start replying to this post. Some are mad, some are joking around, but one dude actually gets it right. And Mossad responds like, congrats, Bainam. You got it right. DM us to claim your prize. Turns out the new secret commander is Ali, the former IRGC Air Force bigwig, already sanctioned by the United States. And the guy who Israel takes out Iran's
Mossad is sometimes referred to as the world's most feared intelligence agency, and it's been blamed for a series of brazen operations through the Middle East in the past year. The pager attacks in Lebanon, the assassination of Hamas's Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, the assassination of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. In recent years, its reputation for ruthlessness seems to have eclipsed even the CIA. Analysts say each of these operations show just how deep Mossad can reach, right into the inner circles of its enemies. Of course, we don't know even a fraction of what the Mossad gets up to. That's the point. But we do know some things. We know Mossad's chief reports directly to the Prime Minister. We know the Prime Minister needs to approve every assassination order. We also know that an assassination order is called a red page, and Mossad has issued quite a number of those. So, how did Israel cultivate its organization of espionage? Mossad was set up in 1949, just a year after the creation of the State of Israel. At this point, Zionist forces had made quite a few enemies because they'd violently expelled Palestinians from their homes and then declared a state on the territory they took. This was back before Israel's peace treaties with Egypt and Jordan, and a lot of the Mossad's focus was on sabotaging Israel's neighbors. One of the most notable campaigns was Operation Damocles. In 1962, Israeli agents launched a wave of bombings, abductions, and violent threats against the West German scientists who were helping Egypt develop its missile industry. Mossad also kidnapped and assassinated at least one person. And the curious bit here is they got a former Nazi SS officer to do it. That brings me to the other reason some in Israel wanted such a ruthless spy agency: the Holocaust. Many of the people responsible for the mass murder of 6 million Jews during World War II were still at large. Now, Israel is open about how its agents flouted the sovereignty and laws of different countries through bombings, attempted kidnappings, and killings in their hunt for war criminals. Criminals like Adolf Eichmann, who organized the mass deportation of Jews to death camps, and he was never remorseful. In 1960, Mossad found out he'd fled to Argentina like many other Nazis. They tracked him down, living under the alias Ricardo Clement. As Eichmann got off a public bus on his way home from work, agents kidnapped him. He was taken to Israel, put on trial, and executed. But Mossad only managed to track down 3 of 11 high-profile Nazi targets on its hit list. A decade later, though, it was faced with a much more immediate and public challenge. It was the Munich Olympics 1972. Palestinian fighters from a group known as Black September stormed the athletes' village, killed 2 Israelis and took another 9 as hostages. West German police completely botched the rescue operation, and all the hostages were killed. Israel's Prime Minister tasked the Mossad with tracking down those linked to Black September in an operation codenamed Wrath of God. From Rome to Paris to Lebanon, Mossad agents tracked down and killed at least 7 suspects. But Mossad had received warnings about Black September before the Olympics and ignored them. And then, while hunting a suspect in Norway, agents killed the wrong man in front of his pregnant wife. They got caught and went to prison before being pardoned. Mossad had another blunder in 1997 when its agents got caught trying to kill Hamas's then political chief, Khaled Mashal, in Jordan at the request of Benjamin Netanyahu. This time, the US had to bail out the failed assassins. Mossad eventually did kill a Hamas commander, but were caught on camera. Mahmoud al-Mahbou had a red page for kidnapping and killing 2 Israeli soldiers. Here he is in a Dubai hotel, and those 2 tennis aficionados behind him are suspected Mossad agents. He was found dead in his hotel room only hours later. But the agents used forged foreign passports, which created diplomatic crises with 5 countries, not least of all the UAE, and Dubai's police followed the trail all the way back to Tel Aviv. It was around this time that Mossad also started to focus on Iran. Between 2010 and 2021, it killed at least 5 Iranian scientists or military figures inside the country, including senior nuclear physicist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, who was shot by a remote-control machine gun mounted on a pickup truck. Mossad and its friends at the CIA are also suspected of involvement in a series of mysterious explosions at major infrastructure sites and a missile factory, and are blamed for introducing the Stuxnet malware to sabotage Iran's nuclear program. Iran and its allies are still the Mossad's main focus. We saw that with the killing of Haniyeh in Tehran and the attacks on Hezbollah and Nasrallah. The problem with spying and sabotage is that success for one side often means carnage for another. And in the context of the current Middle East, this sabotage can often lead to unimaginable consequences.
There you have it. There's more to come, but how did those guys get pardoned after killing that innocent man in front of his pregnant wife? Who was the president at the time? And why do we back a terrorist state as Israel? Wouldn't that make us accomplices, the US, for letting Israel get away with all this shit? 9/11 was an inside Mossad Israeli job, and they blamed other countries, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, in order to invade them. That's just the way this world works. Politics is corrupt. The devil is in the details, literally.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using. So it's very sleek, it's very shiny, and it certainly can fit in a pocket. So what did you do to change this, to make it into a bomb?
So to make it into a bomb, we have to enlarge it a little bit.
In order to put explosives inside, but not too much. Using dummies, Mossad conducted tests with the pager in a padded glove to calibrate the grams of explosive needed to be just enough to hurt the fighter, but not the person next to him.
If we push the button, the only one that will get injured is the terrorist himself. Even if his wife or his daughter will be just next to him, he's the only one that's going to be harmed.
Did you test for that?
Yes, we test everything triple, double, multiple times in order to make sure there's minimum damage.
This is
But what is more to that story that most people don't, that they don't want everyone to know, is that he was a Mossad asset. He was an Israeli spy. He was uplifted by Jewish people all throughout his career from like literally nothing. Like he was a unqualified math teacher, and then suddenly he was like a big shot banker, and then suddenly he was managing Les Wexner's multi-billion-dollar fund. Like, and so there's just, he was groomed for his position because he was a dirty piece of shit, and he was a math teacher that was groping his students, and he, you know, probably had other relations and
Probably
skills.
had a lot of charisma, and he must have been a charismatic guy to talk. But
Great
he-
code switcher.
He was selected. He wasn't the boss.
Selected. But what is more to that story that most people don't, that they don't want everyone to know, is that he was a Mossad asset. He was an Israeli spy. He was uplifted by.
All right, this next one, take note if you can. This is going to do a recap of all the unsolved, mysterious deaths. To anyone opposing Mossad or Zionism, the Israeli political terrorist movement, who blames everyone else for being a terrorist, take note. Take good note. List all the names, all the events, and all the unsolved murders.
The Blade of Silenced Voices, and the death of Charlie Kirk. Yesterday, the world woke to a chilling reminder of how powerful forces can reach into the public square and extinguish the brightest torches of dissent. Charlie Kirk, 31, bold, unyielding, was shot and killed during a campus event at Utah Valley University as he stood at a Prove Me Wrong table, speaking his truth to young Americans. He was struck in the neck while responding to a question mid-speech and later succumbed to his injuries. The nation wept. Leaders on every side, from Donald Trump to governors and senators, rushed to condemn the violence. But none of their words could fill the silence left behind. Mossad has always understood the power of silence. Born in shadows, it has made the world itself a hunting ground. It does not march in daylight like armies, nor debate like parliaments. Its mission is not persuasion, but elimination. Scientists found dead, journalists disappeared. Political leaders struck down before they could sway hearts. From Paris to Amman, Buenos Aires to Tehran, their reach has been limitless, their hand invisible. And always the pattern is the same. Speak against them, and you will not speak again. It is not rumor, it is not myth. It is the whisper they spread across the earth, the doctrine of fear written in the language of death. History remembers. In 1965, Moroccan opposition leader Mehdi Ben Barka disappeared in Paris. His body was never found. Many have long whispered of Mossad's hand in silencing a man whose influence stretched across the Arab world. In 1972, during the infamous Operation Wrath of God, Palestinian voices accused of resisting Israeli power were hunted across Europe and assassinated in cold blood. In Norway, in the quiet town of Lillehammer, a Moroccan waiter was shot dead, mistaken for a target, proving that Mossad's assassins operated with lethal reach and chilling impunity. In 1990, Canadian scientist Gerald Bull, who dared to work on Iraq's supergun project, was gunned down in Brussels. No court ever proved it, but the world still points to Mossad. In 2010, Mahmoud al-Mabou, a Hamas commander, was found dead in a Dubai hotel room, suffocated by a Mossad hit squad carrying forged passports. In recent years, Iranian nuclear scientist Masoud Ali Mohammadi, Majid Shahriari, Dariush Rezeinejad, Mustafa Ahmadi Roshan were assassinated one after another in the streets of Tehran. Bombs under their cars, bullets in broad daylight, each death a signature of Mossad's relentless campaign, and the shadow has fallen even in the West. In the 1980s, Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme, a fierce critic of both apartheid South Africa and Israel's policies, was gunned down in Stockholm. His death remains officially unsolved, but whispers of Mossad's hand in silencing a Western statesman who dared to question Israeli actions have never faded. In France, journalists probing too deeply into Israeli covert networks found their careers destroyed, their reputations smeared, some meeting sudden and mysterious ends. Across Europe, activists for Palestine have reported threats, intimidation, and in some cases, violent accidents that bear the invisible fingerprints of those who kill with impunity. Even in America, there have been moments when suspicion fell close to home. Academics, analysts, and former intelligence officers who dared to publish criticisms of Israeli policy found themselves under surveillance, targeted by smear campaigns, some dying suddenly with more questions than answers. Whether by bullet, by poison, by car crash, or by quiet intimidation, the message was clear. To stand against them is to live with a mark upon your back. But Mossad does not stand alone. It is part of a wider architecture of power, a web of intelligence agencies and shadow governments that work together to silence dissent across the world. The CIA, Michigan 6, the French DGSE, and countless unnamed units each has blood on its hands. Journalists like Gary Webb in America, who exposed CIA-backed drug trafficking, ended up with 2 bullets in his head, his death labeled suicide. Whistleblowers who reveal surveillance programs or secret wars often find themselves hunted, exiled, or imprisoned. Activists in Latin America, priests who stood against military juntas, union leaders who spoke for workers, all cut down in operations planned not only by local regimes, but with the silent blessing of the Western intelligence network. This is the deeper truth. Mossad may be the blade, but the hand that wields it is part of a global body. A deep state alliance of elites and agencies who understand one another, protect one another, and share one mission to ensure no voice too powerful can disrupt their control. When one agency cannot strike, another steps in. When one assassin falters, another rises. It is not about one nation's survival. It is about maintaining a system where power is never threatened and dissent is never allowed to grow beyond containment. From assassinations in Latin America during Operation Condor, to NATO's covert Gladio networks in Europe, to the CIA's black sites and extraordinary renditions, the pattern is the same. Silence the dissenter, erase the truth teller, terrify the rest into obedience. Mossad fits perfectly into this global machine. A specialist in the art of fear, a master of the message, you cannot fight us because we can find you anywhere. From one decade to the next, the message has remained the same. The long arm of intelligence agencies will reach anyone, anywhere, who dares to challenge, resist, or even think of turning against them. This is not the work of a defensive agency protecting a people. This is the work of a political weapon designed to terrify, to make the whole world understand that dissent carries the ultimate price. Its power lies not only in the killing itself, but in the chilling effect it leaves behind. Every assassination is both a death and a warning. Every silenced voice echoes into the minds of those still alive. If you speak, you may be next. The greatest danger comes not from open enemies, but from those who dare to change their minds. Betrayal, or even the hint of it, is treated as the gravest crime. A man who once stood near them but dares to question, dares to turn, dares to speak differently, is marked more deeply than any outsider. To them, a voice shifting against their narrative is more dangerous than an army with guns. And Charlie Kirk had begun to do exactly that. In one of his recent videos, he spoke plainly of what he had seen and what he knew. He said he could not believe Israel's claim that it was unaware of Hamas's attack. He reminded his audience that he had been to Gaza, that he had seen with his own eyes how tightly controlled and monitored the territory was, how every movement was tracked, how every inch was surveilled. He pointed out that from Jerusalem to Gaza is only a 45-minute helicopter ride, and yet on that day there was a stand-down order for nearly 6 hours. 6 hours of silence. 6 hours of inaction while blood was spilled. He told the world that the official story was a lie, that the narrative being sold was impossible. Those words mattered. They mattered because they came not from a lifelong critic of Israel, but from a man who had once stood in support, a man whose voice carried weight with millions. To shift, to question, to expose contradictions, this was not simply dissent, it was defiance from within, and that made it dangerous. Charlie Kirk's death has not been linked to Mossad by any evidence, but its shadow hangs heavy over the tragedy. The sudden silence of a loud voice, the eruption of chaos in a public place, the ending of a man whose influence reached millions. It carries the same dreadful echo as the assassinations written into Mossad's legacy. A reminder that truth-tellers, critics, and those who shift the ground beneath powerful empires often pay with their lives. But here lies the paradox. Every time a voice is silenced, its absence roars louder than its presence. Every time a man is struck down, his words take root in 1,000 hearts. Every time an idea is targeted, the violence only testifies to its power. The attempt to bury dissent does not end it, it multiplies it. Mossad rules by fear, but fear cannot hold back truth forever. The blood of the silenced becomes seed. The echoes of the fallen become thunder. And no assassin's blade, no secret poison, no bullet in the night can kill what humanity hungers for. The freedom to speak, the right to question, the power of truth. Charlie Kirk is gone, but his voice will not vanish. Those who kill dissent may believe they are victors, but history will remember them only as executioners of ideas. The day will come when their shadow no longer terrifies, but condemns. And the words they tried to silence will rise again. Stronger, louder, unstoppable. Mossad kills dissent. Intelligence agencies across the world kill dissent. But truth cannot die. Yesterday's silence will become tomorrow's shout.
That was powerful, my friend, and nothing but the truth. All right, this next one's going to be a little long one as well. That was a 10-minute video. Here comes another 10-minute video, and we will end it at that, but it's fascinating. Fascinating Mossad and CIA cover-ups.
That is classified as a non-physical reality. What happens is that slit opens up more and more and more. So you see more and more of that reality, and we assume that we see different realities. They're not very different realities, but rather a very extended, broad view of one very large reality.
Can we speed that up by doing it?
Yeah. Well, you use techniques which push the nervous system a lot faster. Those techniques are available.
Shortly after making that claim, he was gone. In 1979, Itzhak Bentov was on his way to Japan to meet with leading scientists and share that he had cracked the code of reality. But his first flight from Chicago to Los Angeles never made it. The plane crashed. Strange. The man who had spent years mapping the hidden architecture of consciousness died on his way to reveal it. Later, parts of his work surfaced in CIA files, quietly folded into their own projects. Modern physics now flirts with this idea through quantum field theory. But Bentov wasn't a physicist chasing equations. He was describing the cosmos like a giant interconnected hologram, where every fragment contains the whole picture. Think about that for a second. If your mind is tuning into a universal signal, then death might not be the end. It could be just changing the channel.
The soul is the repository of information that we gather during life. Well, okay, maybe we should draw another diagram. Physical bodies are here, another physical body, and this is Joe, and this is Jim, and this is Sarah, etc. Now, clearly, this is the physical level, yeah? Now, on this physical level, we're all separate. You sit there, and I sit here, and we're all separate. Now, let's draw another level. This level is slightly higher, and let's call this the level of the soul, yeah? Well, there will be some mingling here let's draw this person as extending to practically infinity this way. Now look what happens. At the physical level, we're separate. And there's this much distance between us. Let's say that on the soul level, this person extends this much, and the other person gets slightly mixed in with him. That is, the souls are, in a way, in touch with each other. Okay, they overlap, these two lines. Now let's go now to a higher level, and let's call this, say, the level of the higher self, which is kind of a boss of that soul. There, what we find is that this fellow's higher self extends this much, and the other fellow's extends this much. There is more overlap between them. On the very highest level, which is the high spiritual level, we are basically overlapping completely. Everybody is overlapping everybody else. In other words, everything and everyone is everywhere. In other words, we've become omnipresent. This is a state of highly spiritual perfected beings, or gods you may call them. Okay?
Okay, and so that we exist on all of those simultaneously.
On all of those simultaneously,
So then,
but we're not aware of that.
In your view, then, if when we see each other as separate entities, that's only seen on one plane of reality.
Correct.
And that was just his starting point, because Bentov didn't stop at the mind. He mapped out how your heart and brain physically interact with the cosmos. The results were shocking, and the evidence measurable. But that's where his story takes an even stranger turn.
Well, let's take a simple example. The family sitting at dinner table, and say there's a kid, maybe 15 years old, 16 years old, and he looks up and suddenly he says to his mother, "Hey, Ma, look at, there's our dead grandmother is standing in the corner there." Mother looks around, says, "No." Then psychiatrist says, "Oh, young fella, you're in troubles," and then he writes out a little prescription for a little Thorazine or electroshock or whatever, and pretty soon, in a matter of 2 weeks, kid is back in shape, very normal.
No longer sees the
No longer sees anything.
Yeah.
So the process has been reversed. This is called a psychotic episode, or acute schizophrenic break, or whatever it is.
And what you would say is that there's a good chance that that kid is seen.
Very good chance that the kid has a spontaneous opening of his senses. That is classified as a non-physical reality. The nervous system is that thing that gives us the picture of our realities. That is, our realities, that reality which you see all around you, the flowers and the chairs and the microphones and the teacup, is given to us by our senses.
Yeah.
We don't see light which is beyond UV and beyond infrared. We hear only a limited scale of vibrations, like, for instance, we hear anywhere from 52 to 20,000 maximum. In other words, all our senses are limited. So what happens is that slit opens up more and more and more. So you see more and more of that reality, and we assume that we see different realities. They're not very different realities, but rather a very extended, broad view of one very large reality.
Through years of experiments and self-observation, he discovered that the heartbeat sends a rhythmic wave up the spine into the brain. This microscopic mechanical motion, measured in fractions of a millimeter, generates oscillations that synchronize with the body's electromagnetic field. Here's the twist. Those oscillations match frequencies found throughout nature, from the vibration of atoms to the rotation of planets. To him, this wasn't a coincidence. It was evidence of a built-in cosmic feedback loop.
Itzhak Bentov, he wrote Stalking the Wild Pendulum, is probably one of the greatest works he created so that people could understand what a holographic matrix field is, or a holographic universe. So you could understand entrainment, so you could understand the electrostatic field surrounding the Earth.
Yeah.
He coined these simple, crazy little phrases, these explanations for people that said, you know, we're just all raisins in the jelly, in the jello. And if one raisin is vibrating at a higher frequency, stronger amplitude, and at a higher frequency, soon all of the other raisins in the jello will begin to resonate in that way. And the only way they can't is if they can overpower the amplitude and that frequency. And if they can do that, and they can have a constructive or a destructive wave interference, they can overpower the other wave.
He illustrated the heart as a low-frequency oscillator, producing standing waves that extend beyond the body. In theory, these waves could interact with the universal field described earlier. Decades later, research from the Heart Math Institute confirmed that the heart's electromagnetic field extends several feet outside the body and can influence brain activity, a concept he proposed long before modern instruments could detect it. To him, meditation wasn't just about calming the mind. It was a precise method of tuning the heart-brain system so it could resonate with the deeper architecture of the universe. When tuned correctly, the body could become a gateway to expanded perception, a state where boundaries dissolve and reality is experienced as a seamless whole. This was presented not as mysticism, but as a reproducible process. If true, it means the human body is a finely tuned instrument, one that most people never learn to play. But this map of the body was just the beginning. In 2003, a CIA document quietly appeared in the public domain, a 29-page analysis labeled Gateway Process.
These CIA documents that came out that had been unclassified or declassified for years, people can go online and check it out. But basically what these documents show is the power of doing mind and heart coherence meditations focused on specific intentions and how that can expand your consciousness, even affect reality in a very powerful way. It's something that revealed more about what reality might be, and it's something that also really expanded their sense of the way reality works and how we can influence it.
On the surface, it was a military report on altered states of consciousness. But buried in the technical jargon was something eerie, page after page, describing concepts nearly identical to what Bentov had mapped decades earlier. It spoke of the brain and body as oscillating systems, of consciousness extending beyond space and time, and of accessing non-ordinary realities through controlled resonance. Why would the CIA care? According to the report, mastering these techniques could allow for remote viewing, the ability to perceive events and locations without being physically present. In other words, spying without ever leaving the room. It even describes the possibility of projecting one's consciousness across the universe, or into the past and future. This was not sci-fi speculation, it was treated as a strategic asset. The Gateway document wasn't theoretical. It was part of a larger intelligence program, one that blended physics, neuroscience, and the very same universal field ideas that Bentov explored. And just like his work, it was measured, charted, and taken very seriously, which raises a disturbing question. If this knowledge could truly bend perception, who controls it controls reality. And the CIA wasn't about to let that power go unnoticed. But the Gateway file is just one piece of the puzzle, because once you start looking, you find a trail of other classified projects, each stranger than the last. Another file describes biological signal entrainment, where test subjects were exposed to faint rhythmic pulses, too subtle to consciously notice, that altered brainwaves and decision-making. The idea was simple. If you could synchronize someone's neural rhythms with a desired state, you can make them more suggestible without saying a word. These were not science fiction concepts. Internal memos describe field trials where operatives passed coded messages across crowded rooms using nothing but prearranged micro-gestures and sound frequencies masked in background noise. This is the key. Perception control isn't just about advanced tech. It's about knowing the blind spots built into every human brain, then designing an environment to exploit them. And then there's the strangest, controlled dissociation. Select operatives were trained to detach their awareness from normal sensory flow, entering an observer state, where time felt distorted and memory recall was near perfect. It was the same principle Bentov mapped, tuning the body's oscillations and stepping outside ordinary processing of reality. But here, it was engineered not for enlightenment, but for control. To truly weaponize perception, you don't just change what someone sees. You rewrite the story their mind tells about it. And that's where a former US Navy interrogator takes the concept to another level entirely.
Essentially, what L. Ron Hubbard does is have people read out of this book of Alice in Wonderland. The verbiage is very confusing. And L. Ron Hubbard openly wrote about this in his work, and then the CIA, without even attributing anything to him, copied it almost word for word in an interrogation manual.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So being able to speak confusing phrases helps you to be more persuasive. They discovered this in the 50s and 60s, that if I can confuse your brain acts as though someone it's somebody that's falling. So if you imagine when you're falling, your limbs are flailing all over the place, and the first solid object that they come into contact with, it's going to like grab around it no matter what, even if it's a thorn bush or something.
Okay.
Right? So anything that's solid in that moment of confusion is going to get grabbed onto. So the brain corollary to this is, if a person's confused, the first logical piece of information they hear after being confused will be automatically accepted, or more automatically accepted, without being screened or scrutinized by the brain.
Hughes spent decades training military and intelligence operatives in advanced influence techniques. His claim is blunt. Confusion is not an accident, it's engineered. He calls it controlled perception. The idea is to subtly dismantle someone's mental map of reality and replace it with a version that serves your objective, without them ever realizing the swap happened. Here's how it works. First, overload the target with contradictions. Give them 2 or 3 truths that can't coexist. The brain will scramble to resolve the conflict, and in that state, it's wide open to suggestion. Next, layer sensory cues, symbols, color patterns, even specific rhythms in speech that bypass conscious filtering. Over time, the target's internal narrative shifts, but they believe it was their own conclusion all along. Hughes warns that at scale, this doesn't just change opinions, it can create entire parallel realities within a population. 2 people can live in the same physical world, yet inhabit completely different mental ones, each certain they're right. And here's where Bentov's influence theory meets modern tradecraft. If human perception is a tunable system, then controlled perception is the operating manual. Instead of guiding someone to enlightenment, it guides them into a constructed version of reality, one you control. Unlike Cold War experiments that required labs and specialists, these methods can be deployed through ordinary media, culture, even casual conversation. And once the perception shift takes hold, undoing it is nearly impossible. But in the digital age, these principles didn't vanish, they evolved. What once required trained operatives and controlled environments is now woven into the very platforms billions of people use every day. The tools have changed, but the objective remains. Shape the lens through which reality is seen.
Google was incubated and funded by CIA and NSA and DARPA, and how the PageRank algorithm and all of the proprietary IP that's used in Google was developed first in DARPA, and then there was these 2 people that are listed in that article from CIA and NSA who were visiting Sergey Brin many times when he was developing it and testing it, and they were funding it.
And this is proven.
Yeah, this is his article right here, How the CIA Made Google, Inside the Secret Network.
Good God.
Fascinating deep dive this guy did.
The infrastructure they built doesn't just answer questions or connect people, it quietly maps behavior, preferences, and thought patterns on a global scale. In practice, this means the digital environment can be shaped with extraordinary precision. Each search, scroll, and click contributes to a constantly evolving model of how the user interacts with the world. The deeper the model, the easier it becomes to anticipate and design for specific responses.
If you use blue light specifically, it actually destroys the dopamine reward tracks in your brain. Just so you know, Meta and Google today own those patents.
Cruz's observation adds another layer. The influence isn't limited to what appears on the screen, but to the screen itself. The spectral quality of artificial light, especially in prolonged exposure, affects the brain's chemistry. Lower dopamine shifts the mind into a state of reduced drive and heightened receptivity, subtly altering how information is processed. Taken together, these elements form an ecosystem that doesn't just communicate, it conditions, not in the overt, heavy-handed sense of past propaganda, but through gradual adaptive feedback. The result is a mental environment where certain narratives find easier passage, and others fade into the background. But for the agencies that pioneered these methods, influence was never just about controlling the present moment. In their most unconventional experiments, they went further, testing whether perception could reach into events that hadn't even happened yet.
People's patterns of interaction and speech are extremely predictive of things like engagement and compliance. The pattern of mobility you have during the day, the pattern of how you communicate people, even from accelerometers, how you move. As you see, people are exhibiting behavior that could be best described as foraging behavior, very ancient biological behavior whereby people have routines and then they break loose in these sort of exploratory vignettes and then they go back to their routines.
This is where influence becomes something more than persuasion. In the past, you could only react to what people were doing. Now, predictive models mean you can act before they've even made the choice. Pentland's research shows that with enough behavioral data, algorithms can forecast shifts in opinion, consumption, even social unrest, and design interventions to steer them. And these interventions don't need to be heavy-handed. Change the timing of a notification, subtly adjust the framing of a headline, reorder a list of search results, and you've shifted the odds toward a preferred outcome. It feels organic, but it's engineered.
Your brain does not react to the world. Using past experience, your brain predicts and constructs your experience of the world. The way that we see emotions in others are deeply rooted in predictions, right? So to us, it feels like we just look at someone's face and we just read the emotion that's there in their facial expressions the way that we would read words on a page. But actually, under the hood, your brain is predicting. It's using past experience based on similar situations to try to make meaning.
This is the real loop. Data feeds predictions. Predictions shape context. And context alters what your mind believes is real. At scale, it means the same infrastructure that serves you news or entertainment can also run quiet experiments, shifting collective perception in ways that feel natural, inevitable, even self-generated. Over time, the loop tightens. Every click, pause, or scroll teaches the system more about you, refining the predictions, making the nudges smaller, more precise, and harder to detect. The better the model knows you, the less it needs to push. A perfectly tuned environment doesn't force compliance, it makes you walk willingly toward the path it's already drawn. And because it operates on probabilities, it doesn't need to be right about everyone, just enough people, enough of the time, to shift the trajectory of an entire society. But if reality itself can be bent through a predictive feedback loop, then the question isn't just who's controlling the present, it's who's already written your next move, before you even knew there was a choice to make.
That
Damn, that was a lot. That made me not want to watch TV anymore, or YouTube, or fucking TikTok, or anything. Did you hear Israel is working on a deal to buy TikTok? I think the deal is done. And do you remember that previous video before this one where they said, we will buy foreign companies and label them as foreign entities and to throw you totally off track, and we will manipulate the masses through media. Bro, it's right in front of your eyes. It's not a conspiracy. They said it. They meant it. It's happening. Y'all, I'm out. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. This was an hour-long video. It was a fun one. It was cool. Tell me what you want to see next. Love you. God bless you. Thank you so much.